Today on Beyond School, I'm honored to welcome Damir Šagolj, Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist, educator and director of Warm Foundation. Born and raised in Sarajevo, Damir's journey took him from engineering studies in Moscow to the front lines of conflict. First as a soldier during the Bosnian War, then as a witness behind the camera. For over 2 decades, he captured defining moments in Iraq, Lebanon, Myanmar, North Korea, and beyond, always with a commitment to human dignity and ethical storytelling. Today, Damir teaches at the Academy of Performing Arts in Sarajevo, where he helps young storytellers navigate photography, memory, and now even artificial intelligence. He also leads WARM, a foundation dedicated to war reporting and memory, supporting new generations in documenting truth with conscience and care. In this episode, we explore how storytelling shapes consciousness, why truth still matters, and what it means to raise a generation that can see clearly, ethically, and fully. Welcome, Damir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining the podcast. I'm super excited to have you.
Yes.
Let's go back to where it all begins for you. You're studying engineering, and then your life takes a turn and you find yourself becoming a soldier, then a photojournalist. So what drew you to the camera, and what did photography offer that other paths didn't?
I had a bumpy childhood, as many people in Bosnian former Yugoslavia had. But I also had the little thing before that my father was a journalist, so I left Sarajevo when I was fairly young, being exposed to the things that probably came too early, that I have jumped from one profession to another, the engineering and photography or whatever, was not something that, I wanted to do, like, the career-changing moment that somebody decides, but it was just forced by circumstances. We had a bumpy 90s here in Bosnia and Yugoslavia, and the photography, it grew from a hobby or maybe a little bit of passion into the profession, being combined with the journalism.
But you did choose to leave your studies to come back into Sarajevo. That was a conscious choice.
Yes, but it was not choice that I stopped dreaming about being engineer. Okay. After studying it, for 5 years at the top university. It was not because I just all of a sudden discovered that I'm not made for that or whatever. No, it was just the fact that the life that I would have after completing, and I was also very ambitious. I didn't want to be just whatever. I wanted to continue with it, with the power engineering. That the life that would support such ambition, it just disappeared with the war. The whole industry, the sheer possibility of being what I would wanted to be, just gone. And also the war lasted very long. Lasted for 4 years. Yeah,
but you could have chosen to stay in Moscow, finish there, and go elsewhere with that. But you chose to come back here to your country.
This is when you are young and you're stupid. I think I have like 3-4 times I did, extremely stupid decisions in my life. I sort of got away with them. One of them was to come back to Sarajevo just before the war. The other one was to stay in the war. Another one would be to continue doing the wars. But those are all, the circumstances.
Yeah, they're not really
decisions. It was not something that was, the premeditated or something that I always wanted to be. It was, more as this is how the flow go, and I took the best opportunity of what was offered.
So when did you actually pick up the camera then? Well, there was a moment when you picked it up and decided to.
I picked up the camera fairly early, and I picked up camera seriously early as a kid, young kid, 14, 15. We had I was surrounded with the kids whose parents were artists. My parents were not artists. Nobody had a camera in my family. But all my best friends, their parents were the directors or ballerinas or architects and everything. And through them, I got into the world of visuals. And that was very fruitful time, nice time, cool time in Sarajevo, mid-80s, and a lot of things were happening.
You mean from a cultural perspective?
Yes, and also production-wise. This is what should have been Sarajevo as a part of Europe. It started. We were actually, as a kids, working for foreign markets. That was called at that time. We would do comics, the technical part, painting and photographing the comics pages, or writing the things in a bubble, or painting the things for interiors of cruise ships that were built somewhere, and somebody in Sarajevo would have a deal, to paint interiors of the ships, which we as kids would do. So I've been exposed to the craft, fairly early. I never thought that is going to be
a career,
something that
But you said at home your parents were not really in the arts, but your father was a journalist. So in the
yes.
end, you ended up merging both.
Well,
worlds.
that was the thing, and I think that's what was probably the most determinating thing. Okay, so my previous world of trying to be, or hoping, or dreaming to be an engineer had fallen apart. Bye bye. So you have to come up with a plan B, right? This is close to the end of the Bosnian War, so we know you feel that the war is coming to the end. So okay, let's think what we're going to do after the war. So obviously, I have lost that.
But during the war, you were working already as a photographer.
Yes, but that was again not. Photography was just one part of what I've been doing, but it was not meant to be a profession.
No, I get it. But you were already.
Yes, I knew it, and I was good in it, and because I've worked on high level production studio photography since I was 14, so I had a craft, but not as something that I'm gonna do for a living. No, I never owned a camera. But then, at the end of the war, it just made so much sense.
Okay.
If we would now, from this perspective, from the distance of 30 years, would put things on a paper, would that be a sane decision? Because it would require continue going to the hotspots. We would probably say no, for our kid, right? But for me at that time, I have lost 4 years of the war kills you and does the damage, but it also takes you a freedom to move, to be what you are, right? So after that is released, after 4 years, you just want to go. Right? And the photography had offered, the photojournalism had offered that to me, so I can actually make up for those years that I have lost.
Why war? Because after that you continued into wars. You could have taken photojournalism into other topics, right?
Because this I knew I was good in it. Because
that's a choice.
It just came out from the war when you knew things. You don't have to buy a new set of. Okay. You have a shoes already. Okay. Again, nothing premeditated. It just went.
It just happened
organically.
Okay.
And I obviously didn't resist.
So you just said yourself it came organically and normally. So how did your experience of the war shape after that the way you photographed it later?
Very much.
But how?
First, you know how to behave in the moments, in a conflict, especially in a conflict zone. The time and space shrink. There are many things happening in a small period of time, so you have to adapt to that. So once you've been through it, you're not gonna get surprised. That's muscle memory. But more importantly, it's the experience that you basically carry with you from being in the front of the lens, being photographed, right? As a participant of the conflict that somebody else is covering, which I was. And I have vivid memories of not liking being photographed, right? To jump then behind the camera and be the one who is photographing my former self. So I think that helped a lot because I knew exactly from what position and how to approach that actually fairly complicated situation.
Did you ever feel when you were photographing other people, did you ever feel that in them? Like
I would be very careful with that, and I think that was probably one of my advantages in this very competitive world of photojournalism, is that I probably had some whatever understanding of that person's position that I'm photographing and how close.
You can come and you can go.
Well, you know, you can always go as close. People won't say, but then they would react the way that would damage the city. You know, what would be the forensic picture of it. You know, you go too close, you break the bubble.
What do you mean by forensic picture?
It's what it had happened, you know, the forensics,
So
which is
the truth of the situation.
well, the truth is even truth is somebody's subjective description of what had happened.
So forensic
And
would be factual.
even facts are interpretation because we're using the measurings that are approximative, you know. So forensic, I can't really explain, but when I say forensic, you know what I mean.
Okay.
It's something that is photography before somebody had interpreted it in whatever way. They can interpret it by pointing your camera, you know, with a different angle.
So does that mean also before people start, the people you're photographing start also changing the rhetoric?
Yes.
Would you recall a moment for you when, for you, clearly photography became more than just documentation and you understood that it could carry meaning, memory, or even healing?
Now I actually have that in the opening lecture at my course of photography in the students. But this is an afterthought. This is not me understanding it there. It's me understanding now that that was the big thing with the photography, and I just remember. And it was actually quite a long time ago when I was a 10-year-old and a kid. That was the birthday of my great-grandmother, and there was all drama about this picture that is about to be taken of this massive celebration. And I thought, what the fuck, today? And there was also actually a discussion and a fight. And actually all ended up in a bit of a disaster because they spent too much time arguing who's going to sit next to who in a picture. So I thought, what the fuck? What is this? You know, it's just a picture. So but this is an afterthought, you know, because I've been thinking about this picture quite a lot. But I think it's when you start loving it, when you feel that is your friend, that is something that you can use, you know, to go together through life, photography. It's when you start liking it and loving it, and you start liking it and loving it when you become good with it. Just like with everything else. If you are good in it, you're gonna like it, and you're gonna keep doing it, and you're gonna at some point. But if you're not good in it, you're not gonna like it.
But there's a difference between liking something
and being good,
but also giving meaning to it, projecting meaning outside of yourself.
You have to be good in it.
Okay.
You have to be. If you're not good in it, you're gonna burn out. I would have changed it. I would go, to something else. But it's very important that you become good in something very quickly.
Okay, but that was not the motive. I'm good in it. It's not enough to sustain you in what you're doing.
It's very important. Okay. It's very important because everything, that's the vehicle for everything else. That's the foundation for everything else.
And when did you realize you were good at it?
Very early in the photojournalism. Very early. Photojournalism when I started in the early 90s was not as elaborate, as funky as now. It was fairly straightforward, the agency for the journalists. You go there and you capture the thing and you make sure it's delivered, to the world within in a few hours. But there was almost no photography there. There was practically no photography. It was all about capturing the moment, and the photography would be, accidental. Nobody would care about photography.
So you mean the quality of the picture?
When I say photography, I have done, before that I have spent years doing a commercial photography. When I did, I don't know how many editorials of fashion photography or product photography, everything has to be perfect because the commercial photography is very expensive. And then I realized that knowledge from that photography, that is not news photography, actually applicable to the news photography. So I started adding something that very narrow, at that time, photojournalism style didn't have. And initially I had some little problems, because it was awkward that all of a sudden you bring photography into it.
So what is it? Aesthetics?
Quite a few things would be, like in the filmmaking, there are no no's, right? You can't have, that's for example something that you can't have people looking straight into the camera, right? And that was the thing in an agency photojournalist that would be like, no, but you're not there. You're a fly on the wall. People should not be
looking at you.
Yes, and I had introduced that. I've been insisting. People, and the editors at the time I was younger, and the editors would say, do you have another frame? like the one when the person is looking. I said, no, this one works because it burns, And I actually realized, again, this is an afterthought, years after, I realized that what I did there, this is going to sound a bit pretentious, let it be, that I actually, not knowing that I'm doing it, I actually broke the fourth wall that in theater Brecht did when the actors would all of a sudden turn to the public and start addressing the public. In a photography, that I all of a sudden had that kid, who is super desperate, he's struggling for life. Instead of looking somewhere,
lost in
he looks straight into your eyes. Or I don't know, or tilting the pictures. I would offer tilt a picture. Because for me, the picture is not only the information. That information is selective anyway. I have selected what I'm going to present you.
Of course.
But it also comes with the mood in which it's presented. And very often I would just tilt the horizon, actually quite aggressively, toward the dynamics or awkwardness if it's needed, or the composure or the construction to the picture, and therefore with that I had a funny couple of years in making it not an issue with that world of very strict photojournalism. At that time we had these messengers in which we would speak with the editors and things, and at some point there was a senior editor. We're friends, and it's all nice. Would send a message to another editor who is talking to me while I'm somewhere in, I don't know, Lebanon or whatever. And the message would read, say, tell a Bosnian to get off the phone. Because they were joking, this is the time when the mobile phones just came out, and they were talking that I'm always on the phone because my pictures are crooked. But I made it. So these are the things. Or to have somebody totally unsharp in front of you, so the focus is all there.
But to do those things, I understand why you're saying you have to be good at what you do, and you have to have knowledge of your craft, because when you're in an emergency situation, I mean, all these situations usually are extreme, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That you find yourself in, that you have to document. Yes. So you really have to master your technique.
It has to be extension of your body. If you are going to think about it, forget about it. I mean, yes, then there's another photography which is a slower photography, but for what I've been doing, which is the, you can't miss it, then you better know all these things, by heart, or have it built in.
You've often said that you were shaped by war, but not only, you were also shaped by the silence that followed it.
Yes.
So what role do you believe storytelling plays in breaking that silence?
I don't even know what role of storytelling does in general anymore, and everything is storytelling. The journalist or a reporter of any kind, a filmmaker is also a reporter. He reports on phenomena. Basically, has to find, and the photography is a fantastic metaphor for it. That's our job. We are like astronauts sent in a space where other people can't go to bring them the news, what's happening there. It's to find, a prism. In photographers' world, this is a frame through which you will project a larger phenomenon. That's probably one of the sexiest parts about photography, that, you're going to deliver something in one frame. You have to deliver it in one frame. There's nothing else. And then to make it pleasant. You have to make it, it has to look good. More I know about it, it's more on a gambling side of a storytelling techniques. You gamble with it. You can miss for a split of second. There's a picture that won a Pulitzer Prize when when the guy who shot the Kennedy gets shot. There were 5 photographers next to each other, right? Only one with the picture of the guy who was shooting. The picture that won the Pulitzer for all the others you never heard of. But that's also a thing that drives you to it.
To be the one to capture that moment.
Yeah.
So what about silence? What about the silence that comes after the war? Because your war was one of the most documented. It was the first war to be followed live. Sorry if I say your war, but the war in Bosnia, the 92-95 war. It was the first war to be lived live on TV.
Yes.
So where does the silence come in after the war for you?
I don't know about the silence. When it lasts long, if it's not the 6-day war or something, then that you fairly, and everybody in Sarajevo understand that. It's not only me that I'm not smart. First, this is going to be the most determinating thing that could happen into your life. That's hard thing to swallow. So there's thing before that and after that. For many people, for most of the people, it takes time for that. It took me 20 years for that to have a peace with it. And it does a lot of damage, a lot of damage. But the one of the damages, that leads to that silence, is that in a war you burn a lot of illusions, and that's people without illusions that leads to silence. After the big wars, we don't write about utopia, anymore. We can't even project what we want because we're so dumb, because when you just come out of the survival mode.
You mean numb?
Numb.
Yeah.
When you just came out of survival mode, all of your organs, just your surviving organs are trained. All your other organs are, haven't been used for 4 years. Then even that is, and that I think is the case, not only with me, but with a lot of authors from Sarajevo and other authors from around the world who had experienced the conflicts themselves, is that you can actually use it as your advantage. The numbness, the silence, the scars, not only the practical knowledge, but the whole thing. And all of a sudden you have a very relevant set of skills, that can be applied elsewhere.
What has a lifetime of witnessing taught you about human nature, its darkness, but also its resilience?
It's a yo-yo thing, and I also have we all have yo-yo, 10 years you think that we are good as a human race, and then the next decade you think that we are doomed. Now yo-yo is pretty low, and I actually think that just by being exposed to these crisis situations in my life, and people are becoming, this is the margins. People are reacting. They're not reacting from within their comfort zone. They're reacting with their balance, so that they show, their true self. I actually think we are doing pretty bad, and that most of the things that we thought were, doing good for the humanity were in vain. Like, for example, everything we had agreed upon after the Second World War, for example, and that is all because it was all well documented and photographed, all the atrocities, the Auschwitz and the killings, and then in 1948 the whole world has set, and they set up the universal set of rules, the UN.
The human rights and all those
convention, the UN as the organization, in order to prevent us going into what have just happened in 40s, right? International criminal courts, genocide conventions, it was all, it was a fairly solid table on which the world would develop, it had all these pillars, our understanding of, and little by little, many of those legs of that, or pillars of that table, had been removed, and I think that we might be now coming to, but it's fairly pessimistic, but what can I say? To the point where we will have to reset ourselves again, as we did in 1948. You know, to say, hold on a second, let's now reset the rules.
So coming back to your lifetime work, what do you think was your responsibility and that of your colleagues from an emotional and ethical point of view in a conflict zone?
I think that we can talk about this and for hours. And,
yes.
Okay, we do this. I think that the main of, at least of what I was doing, which is the agency reporting, was that I'm going to bring an image of what had happened to you, so you can't say I didn't know, and I would stop it there. Yes, there's this and there's that, but our job and my job was that I go there, that I capture that moment, so you sitting somewhere, wherever, you know, seeing it on a computer or a glossy or whatever pages of the paper can see it, and so you can't say I didn't know. And that was my driving point, my driving force into how my photography should look like. It would not be only informative, that tells the fact, but it would actually, you know, look at you from a page, so you could say, fuck, I didn't know.
And,
so now you know.
And you say, fuck, I'm not going to turn the page,
Yeah,
I want to stop.
So now you know. Yeah.
When you're a witness to suffering and to violence, how do you choose where to point your lens?
Again, if I would have an answer to that, I would probably write a book or a manual how to do it. That's all comes from understanding and reading the situation. And that comes with the experience. You know, that experience doesn't have to be 20 years or something. You can build an experience in a 6 month. First and most importantly, about how to position yourself. You know, from before you take the picture. You know, you ask yourself where I'm going to position myself in order to have the best picture. You know, you can position yourself in many different positions. One side, another side, close to the front line, above, low. Then, which is probably the most complicated part, is to make all that happen perfectly in one split of second that is going to make a frame. But that all positioning, it's basically a muscle memory, because you know you've seen such things or you thought through them, so you know how to approach them.
So in today's context, you think one picture can make the world care?
I think I've used a few times this analogy, and I think it works. Is picture going to change the world? Of course, it's not going to change the world.
But do you think people care more or more aware now because they have access to more?
The pictures work. I just want to explain, they do work. They work as a radiation. You know, that's the analogy that I like now more and more. You know, when you're exposed to the radiation, like X-rays, and nothing happens until you are exposed to certain amount of radiation over a certain period of time. This is the moment when your body starts reacting to it. And I think this is how pictures work. Some other ways of understanding or knowing what happened, like experience it, or probably words, they work like bullets. You know, they kill you or they don't kill you, right? You've seen something or you haven't seen. While pictures are a bit more radiation-like, you know, it takes, some pictures deliver you a certain strong dose of radiation, a strong picture, right? But then there's all these little pictures that you see for a split of a second on your iPhone when you scroll, right? They give you a little tiny dose of it. And then there's a moment when that tiny dose is going to be just enough for your body to react to it. That's how pictures work. Yes, there are pictures that had a significant impact in how the world.
So would you say that you try as much as possible, you have tried as much as possible to avoid spectacle and really focus on human dignity? Or sometimes do you use spectacle as a...
How do you mean spectacle? What do you mean by spectacle?
You know, making a spectacle of something is like, it's practically abusing of the of the suffering or the violence of the gore, just to promote, if you want, the picture, just to get the attention. How do you avoid using the situation and really focusing on the dignity behind
No,
or
you
the
can't.
coverage? Okay, it's mixed in.
No, you can't. If you're going to be obsessed by dignity and not damaging the, you're not going to go. You're not going to go
So
far.
sometimes you just jump into the spectacle.
There are certain rules that are written or not written that we are all sort of aware of, where you try not to cross the line, but it's not that strict.
Have you ever been in a situation where you witnessed something that you just couldn't handle, personally?
No, not that I couldn't handle that. But there were situations where I couldn't handle the fact that I need to photograph it. So I wouldn't photograph it, but would get involved. But I couldn't handle it, so that I do something like, I don't know, start crying or something. No. But yes, there were obviously many situations where you would not take a picture of somebody, I don't know, crossing something that you would help it or whatever. I don't think that even if I would have not taken a picture of something that is very important, I wouldn't like it. You have to take a picture. You might not publish that picture because it shows something so terribly wrong that is not publishable, right? But you have to take a picture.
As an archive, as memory.
You have to take a picture.
Okay.
You're there to take a picture. You have to go there and expose yourself to it. So at least, there's somebody that had witnessed it. Of course.
So you're more than somebody bringing back information. You're also a witness.
Yes, witness, and that comes. That's the best part about photography, and something that is making photography being more and more relevant now, despite what people think, is that in order to report with pictures, with photograph, unlike reporting with a text or reporting with some other forms of reporting, video, film, with the pictures, with photo, you have to be there and witness it yourself. Most of the TV news are done, 15 minutes after, and then, the eyewitness tells you what happened to his cousin, and you get a mobile phone footage of somebody who had filmed it, but you haven't witnessed it. Right? With the pictures, you can't. You're there or you're not there. So that actually, all of a sudden, brings that proximity to what had happened, start working in favor of picture being now trusted more than before, because you actually had to be there. The news that you read in the newspaper, right, of something had happened, it's that somebody came or didn't come at all. Most of the time they call by phone, right? Or they ask a photographer who is there, what do you see? Get me a quote, or ask, right? So you're asking somebody, an eyewitness of what had happened, right? This is already somebody telling you a story from his own perspective, in his own language, under his own pressure, and you write that down, right? With the words. Words are approximative, right? They're not forensic. Then you write that down in your notes. Then you go, you write your story. Then you send it to your editor. Then your editor rewrites the story. Then you publish it to the newspapers. Then somebody reads it with its own eyes. You know how many approximations is there from what had actually happened. And with pictures, there's, it's direct. You're there or you're not there. Right? But nobody is retelling you or reshaping you. So that is now becoming, because the trust in storytelling is becoming an issue. It's not only how good is your story and how good is what you report, but it's also now how much you trust the source of that. This is why being there is becoming the thing. It should.
Is there a picture that you've taken that still lives inside of you because of the moment, or because of
number of? I have taken. I've been working in these small forms, fragments like this. I've been doing X-rays every day. I was not. I don't have. I do have, I don't know, 20, 30 pictures that had, by being published a lot or winning awards, they probably have done some impact, right? I would assume. But if there is something that I think it's more special than anything else. No. No, or yes, but not one, but I don't know, a number of pictures.
So if I asked you to show me one or two now, the thing that would come immediately to your mind would be what?
Probably something that I've been working on recently, and I have it in mind, but...
Okay, so nothing special, nothing...
No.
You co-founded and now you direct Warm Foundation. What was your original vision for it? And maybe can you tell us, give us a bit of a background on how, because there's a really nice story behind it.
Yes. I don't think we had a vision at the beginning. I think was a more let's start something and then see what's the vision. It had all made sense because that's the generation, my generation, and people that are a bit older than me, who had professionally grown up in Sarajevo during the war. The journalists, artists, activists, there's quite a lot of people from abroad and from Sarajevo who had realized not only that Sarajevo is, like for my generation, not that only the war in Sarajevo is the most determinating things in our life, something that had shaped us more than anything else, but also that, and this is why we have started it in Sarajevo, the thing, also that Sarajevo can still, and it will probably do it for a long time, can still serve as a platform or a prism through which you can project the other conflicts in order to understand them better because of its legacy, because of the proximity of what had happened and all the castings and all the people that are around. And then we started the foundation without a clear plan of what we're gonna do, but with a mission that Sarajevo can and should serve as a platform where we can actually talk about contemporary conflicts. Okay. And this is what we do. We talk about art, reporting, and memory that is related to conflicts. Mm-hmm. That's what FORM stands for. The foundation has different places, if I understand correctly. It's based mostly in Sarajevo, but then you have a... So the foundation is based in Sarajevo. We are legally just present in a few other countries. But most of the activities, or not most, all of the activities, or most of the activities come from Sarajevo or through Sarajevo. And we'll insist on it. And Sarajevo is, when it comes to what we are dealing with, the contemporary conflicts, it's a very good place to do what we are doing. So how many years has it been now? Next year, 27, is going to be 15 years. So we started in 2012 on the 20th anniversary of the beginning of the war. Now it's getting a bit more interesting because not only that we've been doing it for now a longer time, so we have a team and partners, so we're a bit more structured and supported, but also that the conflicts are now more relevant than they were in 2012. 2012 it was all about wars happening somewhere else, but now it's omnipresent, and all of a sudden the people, it's not only the experts who deal with the conflicts that are interested in what we do. All of a sudden it's becoming a bit more relevant. Reporting, memory, and art, it means a lot of things. So what concretely do you do? The thing that we've been doing from the very beginning is that we have a festival. And a festival, it's a nice thing to do because festival is happening once a year, and it's fairly easy to organize it. You don't have to exist the whole year as a structure in order to deliver a festival. And since we don't exist as an organization apart from legally existing stuff, that's something that we've been working on. The festival, which started small, friendly, always on very high quality with the top content. And the access is art exhibitions, master classes. We tried at the beginning. It was only few exhibitions and panel discussion or something, but we had developed now the festival in as multimedia experience as we have, and also across not only disciplines but also in who is attending. So obviously we do now a lot with education, a lot of stepping out of what the core conflicts just themselves are, and looking what impact conflicts have on some other parts of our life, like environment or human rights or post-war. But we still have the plan, and this is why, what is it now? I think that was done on the first day when the war was formed, is that we actually are hoping that at one point we will have a warm center in Sarajevo.
Which, we will.
Yes, in which we will have a free platform to talk about things the way we want.
So what happens when memory gets distorted in society? What happens when memory
Nothing, it just remains as a memory. Okay. The memory is, we are taking it too seriously. We are giving it too much importance. The memory is a super fragile thing. It's very dynamic also.
So how do you deal with that? The fact that it's so fragile, and
you just understand that it's so fragile, and you I don't take it for granted.
So you just create a platform where there's a lot of it.
This is what somebody thinks had happened, right? And this is what somebody tells you that had happened, not this is what had happened, because this is just somebody's interpretation of it. Memories are a very, very fragile and very, very dynamic process. You know, they're not so solid thing. That's something that you acquire once, and then you store it, and then you take it out after 5 years, and it would be a little bit, like they say, the pale memory. But it's still going to be there, just a little bit pale. That's
and yet it's very dangerous, because people act on memories and on situations.
It's not only people, it's that the whole system on which civilization
is
built. It's based on, on witnesses, or what something, the juridical system is like, the witness comes and says, this is my memory of something, what had happened 20 years ago.
But right? Also history.
And then we take...
all our identity is created on the on memory. Yeah.
So that's all, that's the bad part, that it's not accurate, but the worst would be not to be aware of it, and to take it for granted and say, yes, I do remember, in 1990 something, this is what had happened. No way.
You teach at university. I think you really enjoy teaching. You like being around young people. You like having conversations with young people.
Yes.
And you're trying to transmit some of your experience and also get them to open their minds to having their own.
Yes.
So how do you guide these young future storytellers to engage with a very complex and painful narratives, but in a respectful and ethical and honest way?
This generation is very confused, right? And they're rightly so confused. Our generation was not that confused, because when we were 19, 20, the university 21, the whole world had the rules. There were good guys, bad guys. There were rules. There were, there were authorities.
Isn't that what every generation says?
No, I don't think so. I think that the way that the authority has been questioned now, it hasn't happened with, at least not with my generation. Now these kids, the kids that we are educating now, they are coming with a strong sense of denial towards everything as a reaction to, the world being the way it is. And also they do not trust anybody anymore, right? And rightly so. And they don't trust people because the people lie, and the whole notion of authority, that somebody is telling you something from position of authority,
and therefore
has become a joke.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So when I think about teaching, I'm very careful and very aware of that. Right? That the authority, the way we know it, the way the history tells you that there's an altar, or a cathedral, or whatever, and there's a smart man who's going to go there and deliver his wisdom or her wisdom, right, and meditate. And that doesn't work for a number of reasons. First, that wisdom, it's available on YouTube now. But the other thing is that younger generation, or not younger generation, or us at the moment, that we just do not trust, that we don't take the authorities as serious. And that's very difficult, for the education when there's no authority.
But there's an opportunity too. There's an opportunity. You say wisdom is on YouTube. I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of information on YouTube, but what you have when you have a group of students in front of you, you have connection, the opportunity of connection and of a relation, where you can actually, you don't need necessarily authority in the relation. You need respect, and there's still a huge need and space for that, don't you think?
Yes, and I've been lucky because I'm working with a smaller group of students, which are 40 maximum, so I can actually know everybody and have that
Connection.
Approach.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that it's a challenging moment because the education that we know is just people are questioning it. Just the fact they don't have an answers, right? They're just questioning, and when you question something, when you question your decision, that you are not fully into it.
So you feel that the young people are questioning everything, and at the
They're
same
questioning,
time,
they're questioning, do they need to study? I think half of them are questioning the fact that they're studying. Do they need to do it? Mm-hmm. Or they should just, whatever. So they don't get engaged, if you don't believe that's the way to do it, somebody comes and gives you the PowerPoint presentation, 45 minutes, and teaches you a lesson. Do I need this? So my approach is with the full understanding of that, not imposing what I think should be, and trying them to fit in my.
How do you catch their attention? What are you trying to achieve with them then?
I go and search for energy.
Okay.
And I go to the group and I ask them, where is the energy? Where do they have an energy? I go like with a sonar, with a metal detector, and I'm trying to see where is the energy, because if there's no energy, there's nothing. So somebody might have energy in the music, somebody might have energy in martial arts, somebody might have energy in the sport, somebody might have energy in the trading, the Pokemon cards, as one of the students have. Mm-hmm. And
you start there?
And then I go and I use that well of energy because that energy is something that is existing, and it's organic, rather than trying to build another. And then once you get them, then they come.
So what are the values you hope you're going to pass on to them? What do you want them to leave how long do they stay with you, a group of students?
They stay for a couple of years. They stay for 4 semesters. They stay for a long time. This goes beyond teaching at university. It's also something that we apply at the WARM, because the WARM has its own educational segment, yeah. WARM Academy. It's through working with them. Every exam I had, and every exercise I have, I do it myself for the students. If I tell them, you need to do a set of 12 pictures in the manner of such and such, I do it too. And I go and I expose myself tremendously through them. I give them all my raw files. I give them all my equipment to look through, all the settings they want. And then I show them how much I spend on it, so they can actually understand what it takes.
Of investment, personal investment.
What it takes to deliver a good picture.
And you take them out of the classroom?
Of course I take them out of the classroom. We would spend, as we did now on Monday, we would spend I don't know, an hour taking one picture. We have one go, right? If we miss it, we have wasted 45 people at the location for an hour, and we have one. So they know what kind of commitment, what kind of engagement, what kind of risk comes with delivering a good result. Mm-hmm. Because to deliver a so-so result now, that's a YouTube. You go on YouTube, you'll deliver a so-so result in any field you want today. I think you can become a surgeon on YouTube. To the so-so result, right? But to the excellence, I'm teaching not at a vocational school, not in a school that is going to teach people to make a sharp picture. This is an art academy. It goes way beyond the technicalities or practicalities. And this is why it's important for them to go through the process of creating something. With me, we do it together, so they can actually see what it takes to do it in practical terms. And they like that.
it's a real experience also.
Yeah.
It enables them to really experience themselves.
But also when they do yourself doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, then you're not saying, "Oh, I've been doing it when I was your age." You know, when I was 20, I was, you know, I would have done this. No, I do it to them. I do it myself.
Mm-hmm. So what has teaching taught you about yourself?
The learning process more and more gives me this you know, almost the sense of, you know, like the bicycle thing. I believe if I would stop learning, that, you know, the whole thing would collapse. That, like, if I would stop pedaling, if I would say, okay, I have accumulated enough speed, you know, so that my bicycle now can glide
Forever?
I think I would, you know, like, I would fall of it. Everything would dissolve within 50 minutes. And this, working with
The students?
yes, it gives me, you know, it makes me pedal more, which is good.
So you've started exploring AI-generated imagery, with your students. So what sparked your interest into, you know, to bring AI into class, apart from the fact that it's everywhere and that it's all everybody?
Well, it's a tool, you know, and it's a tool, and
is it an interesting tool?
It's an interesting. Well, there were many interesting tools before, right? This is not the first interesting tool. You know, the internet was an interesting tool itself, right? The mobile phone was a very interesting tool. The digital cameras were very... So this is just another tool, you know, a bit more powerful than the previous tools. And, you know, I think if we are aware of it, as, you know, we should be, I think it's a wonderful tool. And we've been actually exploring how much that can not supplement or complement the creative part of what we are doing, but be just a support to it. And I think in that respect, this new tool it's offering us, it's unbelievable. It's like the assistant that you always wanted to have. The assistant is an assistant. Assistant is not the person who makes decisions. You know, it's not somebody who's gonna tell you what to do. That's on a good side. On a bad side, every time there's something as powerful as that, you know, that comes into the equation, it creates a tremor. It shakes the thing, and lots of people get hurt when the things are being shaken.
Well, anyhow, this generation is going to be using.
You know, yes,
we're just learning it in the aftermath of it. I mean,
especially when it comes to pictures, there's always this threat, you know, because we are now obsessed by the machine who is producing the pictures that look like real pictures. But we've been upset by the things on such or a bigger scale before as humans. You remember the videos of people watching a film for the first time, you know, the train and things. You know, they were also shocked.
It's actually quite interesting, because with all of this happening, what I noticed in the younger generation is that there's never been a younger generation more interested in craft, in handmade things, in imperfect looking things, wearing clothes from 3 generations ago that they're going to refix and redo themselves and everything. So there's this kind of counterbalance happening. I'm observing, and I'm wondering, because regarding you, we're going to have so many deep fakes and synthetic images that maybe the photography is going to be the elite of the thing. You know, people are going to pay fortunes because
it's already like that.
Yeah.
It's already, and this when we spoke about the importance of the documentary pictures, how all of a sudden they are becoming valuable because you actually have somebody who had witnessed it, you know. So, you know, there's very little chance that this is some sort of, you know, you have direct, and with a name, it's a person that you can trust or not trust. It's not a construct.
No. Do you think AI-generated images can tell the truth, or is there power in something else?
We would have to define what is the images. If you're saying that AI created photographs that are trying to fake as a photographs, no. But if you talk about images, can AI images tell the truth? Of course they can. I mean, just as a drawing can tell the truth. You know, you can make a map,
of course,
of something, or a timeline of something. You know.
Or a beautiful drawing that has a narration behind, a narrative behind it.
Does it tell the truth? Of course, it tells the truth. But if you are trying to recreate what the camera and a witness, if you're trying to compensate that trust part, that's not going to work.
What about all the creative and emotional side that the human being brings to any form of creation, whether it's a photography or something? Do you think AI one day will be able to transfer that, create something really creative and innovative and distinct that carries human emotion or emotion?
I think it will just continue what other tools were giving us until now. Mm-hmm. There were tools like with the music. At some point there were rhythm machines, right? So you just have to add a little bit of sound, and all of a sudden you have a song, right? Which is created by a rhythm machine and your little. So now the AI basically does the same. So it's gonna serve the low-hanging fruit when it comes to the production, the elevator music, the menus for the restaurants and the things. But for the art that actually hits the people and kicks them out of their comfort zone, which is what art should do. In that respect, AI is going to be just a tool in order to deliver it. It's going to produce all these low-hanging fruits.
I had an interesting conversation with somebody who was telling me that it can never become conscious because it only relies on input from us. So we input something and then it just agglomerates all this input, but there's nothing it can create on its own. But then there's some other AI specialists who've had experiences where they put these intelligences in situations and they just let them solve a problem. And that eventually, over time, they manage to have a creative moment and to solve a problem on their own. And so this led another person to say that what if we feed AI with, I don't know, all the mystics, all the belief systems that exist, all the physics, the most advanced things that we've ever created, all our history, all our romances, all everything, and you feed it with that. Would it one day be able to emerge from that with a form of consciousness that is able to create and to...
I would not even be bothered by answering this, because what is the consciousness?
Well, if you have an answer, I'm ready to listen, because a lot of people are thinking about this today.
I don't think I have a conscience, but what I know is that, I don't know what's the percentage, let's say 87% of people's conscious is not they conscious. They are actually making the decisions the same way that AI does the decisions, right? So they make a decision because something else is telling them some other references in the world, whether it's their parents, whether it's their cultural upbringing, whether it's the religions, whether it's this, whether it's that.
So they're also behaving.
So what is the conscious?
Like data input.
So,
yeah,
exactly.
That's very true.
So, that's 87 we have covered. So those 13 or 12 or whatever, 3% of people, those are the people that make things move forward. They're not going to use AI to do that. This is so, but the conscious is, we are giving humans too much credit. It's not that our conscious, it's a superior and it's all.
No, I agree with you.
No.
And I don't think consciousness personally limits itself to the human being. We're not the only vectors of consciousness in the universe.
Yes.
But
So I'm not concerned about that, whether it's going to get... I think we don't have to talk about the future. I think now it has a conscience that many people are just not interested in having.
That reflected. No,
people just not. It's easier to not to have your own conscience. It's just, okay, there are rules. You set up you surround yourself with a set of rules that you like. I follow this for this. I follow this for this. I follow, and and based on that you make your conscience. Is that your conscience?
But that's what a lot of people who work in AI are saying, that it will have the consciousness that we put in it. Yeah. So if we feed it with the right stuff, it will evolve in a certain way. If we feed it with the wrong stuff, it will evolve in another way. So it's somehow...
I also think it's gonna be what you want it to be. If you want it to be a conscious, you can say, oh, it's conscious. But again, what would be an example of conscious that...
Well, consciousness means that it at some point can think or act or do something on its own, not so only as the result of a series of data inputs, that there's a creative moment where it can transcend that and, you know, produce something that's personal to itself. That's what I would perceive as an act of consciousness. Anyhow, there's no answer to that.
Yes,
it was interesting for the point of the debate. What excites you personally the most about everything related to AI right now, in this moment, and from your perspective?
The amount of data that it can process.
Okay.
And that's a wonderful thing. You know, a lot of good things is going to come from just the fact that we can sort a lot of data. We're going to be curing people, and people will have less pain, and because, you know, so that's actually very exciting. You know, that we can just get that incredible. But you know, it's the same thing had happened with internet came out, that all of a sudden you have all the books.
Of course.
You know, so for me, this is the amount of data that can be processed in a, you know, that you can say, look, you know, in a through whole of your references, look for this particular thing, and it's going to do it in 12 seconds. You know, find me a pattern in something. You know, you would need an army of people to look for such a pattern through the library of books. This is going to do it in a minute, and that pattern you might use in understanding some wider phenomena that's going to help us move forward.
For the time being, powering AI is costing immensely to the environment.
Yes.
And it's going to become a bigger and bigger problem. Do you think that we're going to figure out a way of doing that in a way that is less harmful?
I'm going to be very careful when it comes to all these environment things, because you know, that one war, you know, like we have a couple of wars now, you know what damage one war does to the environment? That then all these AI things and all the whatever it becomes irrelevant. You know, you know, with all the bombings and all the rockets and all the explosions and all the pollutions and everything that we do. So I don't think that...
But it's an accumulation of all those things together. Just what's interesting for me is that every time it's like this constant balance in the human being, where you create something incredible,
well,
and at the same time what you create has an impact. It's like
when we started
we
started producing the power, you know, the electricity, we started all of a sudden, you know, the coal and this in order to, but you know,
I know.
That's the progress.
Yeah, and it's also the...
But I think that part, the AI is going actually to sort that part for itself.
It might solve it. That's probably it.
So that's you know, I wouldn't worry. It's gonna go wind, solar, whatever, thermal energy. You know, in 50 years. So we will not have to burn coal or use diesel anymore. It might not sort it out, but it would help us sort it out much quicker.
So you are not only a teacher, and you're also a father.
Father.
That's another important role, and your son's he's coming closer to the teenage years, and
yes.
with his own ideas and his own dreams. And so what kind of world do you hope for? Do you hope to prepare your son for? What do you think he needs?
The world, you know, what we leave behind, it's that scary part.
What do you think he needs now to be, you know, how can you help him now to be prepared?
I really don't know, really don't know. I think more you know, the world is turning into a place where you would need to think about survival rather than dreams, you know, about how to achieve the utopian, how not to focus on the survival part when survival is such a, I don't know, I really don't have that answer. Nor I know how to find a balance. I would love him to discover where he's going to find his strength, right? Rather than imposing what I think should be his strength, right? Maybe his strength would be physical strength, maybe his strength would be artistic strength, maybe his strength would be whatever. But our job would be to help him navigate the landscape where there's all these passions and strengths, so he can actually
develop from them.
Develop that strength, and then all of a sudden he has an anchor in the society, and I think that's what I can do the best for the future, that he's anchored somewhere, that he's not the floating little entity that keeps being bounced by others. By not imposing it, not saying, okay, here's where you need to anchor.
Helping to define it himself
and giving him as many opportunities, and understanding that he develops a relationship with something that is going to be a foundation of his, whether it's a music or mathematics or whatever.
Do you photograph your family in a different way than you photograph others?
No, and that's no. But I'm taking the photography actually quite seriously, and we always had an issue when we go on holidays. I would never, we would go for 2 weeks holidays, and I would deliver 12 pictures. And then my wife would be like, where are the other pictures? That no, this is enough. We can't have too many. No. I like pictures, and I getting equally excited where I take a picture of my son on daily activities, or I take some important news pictures. And I don't take too many pictures, especially not of the family. I actually, and that's not good. I should have been doing a lot. I realized recently that I don't have pictures of my parents almost. That I practically never took a picture of my father, which is almost insane. So I don't. And all the pictures that I have of them are the happy snaps from the family gatherings or something.
If you could whisper one sentence into the ear of a young photographer just starting out, what would it be?
Young photographer, in general photographer.
Yes.
Before photographing, because photographing it's a process that you can't do all the time. But what you can do all the time is that you observe the world before photographing it. And you can improve your photography so much by just using these 2 lenses that you wear all the time, and you look through them, and those are the 50mm lenses, and we have 2 of them all the time. So we can actually, position ourselves and build a frame at every moment of our everyday life. And this is what I actually do say to the students every day. I want you to find the shapes when you go in a tram. I want you to find the lines. I want you to find the depth. And then when the moment comes when you have a camera to deliver it, you will actually know how to position yourself to have the best frame. And that improves photography tremendously, just by observing things, just by positioning yourself, around the subject.
One final question. What is the most human moment you've ever photographed?
Most human?
And don't tell me there's a million.
No, but most human, I could probably play a devil's advocate and say the moment when somebody dies, or when people realize that somebody died. This is when they are more human than anything else. But if it's the most human in terms of when humans were nice to each other, if that was the question.
What does it mean for you, most human? I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably the ultimate thing when actually somebody takes that away from you. But when somebody dies and then somebody reacts to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.